They came to my house with a fine and a smirk. $5,000 for hunting, on land they didn't own. They thought it would scare me, make me submit. What they didn't know was that piece of paper wasn't a chain, it was a trigger. They spent years parading around like neighborhood kings, handing out tickets like royal decrees, marching mornings through forests that didn't belong to them. Untouchable, uncontrolled, unchallenged. Until now. As I began digging into their beloved nature trails, I found a secret buried so deeply that it would unravel everything they had built, and rightfully bury their little empire in ashes. If you've ever dreamed of teaching your HOA a lesson about private property rights, this story is for you. By the way, where are you watching from? Leave a comment. I'd love to see how strong our community really is. I never intended to be the troublemaker of the neighborhood. Honestly, I'm just looking for a place to breathe. 2 years ago, when I moved to Green Valley Estates, the only thing I craved was peace. A little quiet after years of restlessness. 8 years in the military, then 5 years sitting in cramped tech offices in Seattle. I was so tired of the small space and the endless noise. I am Mason Holloway, 38 years old, working as a remote software engineer for a cybersecurity company. This job not only brings a good income, but also gives me something more valuable. Freedom of space and time to slow down. Green Valley Estates looks perfect on paper. Modern homes sit on large lots on the edge of the western Washington woods, remote enough to feel peaceful, but not so isolated. HOA fees are quite expensive, $450 per quarter. But the broker insisted that I would enjoy resort-like community amenities. What she conveniently omitted is that this area is ruled by a controlling woman named Evelyn Richardson, 38 years old, half smile, and a rule book that she considers the Bible. I came to find peace. I didn't know I had just stepped in. A place where power is measured by the degree to which it makes laws for others. Her name is Evelyn Richardson. And just days after moving in, I got to meet the queen herself. She showed up in yoga pants, a pastel sweater, and a disarming smile, holding banana bread, a candle, and a stack of papers thick enough to be law books. "Welcome to Green Valley," she said. "You'll love it once you understand how we work." That word stuck with me. Once, not if. Like this place reshapes you. I'd later learned she was a senior law firm manager and 5-year HOA president. No one challenged her. It wasn't just discouraged, it was unthinkable. At first I complied, paid the fees, cut my lawn to regulation height. But I kept to myself. Sarah Johnson, my neighbor, warned me early. "Evelyn means well, sort of. But this isn't a community. It's her kingdom." And she wrote the rules. I might have stayed clear of Evelyn, if not for my weekend ritual. Hunting isn't a hobby for me. It's heritage. I grew up in Montana, raised by a grandfather who taught me respect for the land, for silence, and for the discipline of the hunt. One October morning, I found it. 80 untouched acres just beyond the neighborhood. A quiet stream, thick brush, and the kind of peace you don't stumble upon anymore. A quick record search showed it belonged to Frank Williams, 83, now in Florida. I emailed, asked permission, promised care. He replied, "Son, that land's been in my family 50 years. If you're respectful, go ahead, and send a photo if you bag a buck." I was honored. What I didn't know, Evelyn and her crew had unofficially claimed the land. Homemade benches, bird feeders, unmarked trails, no signs, no permits, no ownership, just entitlement, dressed in pastels and yoga pants. They thought the land was theirs. They were wrong. And that oversight was about to change everything. It was early November, prime season. I was out before dawn, mist curling through the trees, boots silent on damp leaves. Frank had told me about an old family clearing. I found it, settled in, and waited. Around 9, the woods shifted. A broad 8-point buck stepped into the light. One clean, humane shot. Done. I was kneeling beside it when I heard them. Voices, laughter, the unmistakable crunch of expensive sneakers. Then they appeared like ghosts. Evelyn Richardson and 5 women in matching tracksuits, steaming thermoses in hand. She stopped, saw the buck, the rifle, me. Her face hardened. "What the hell are you doing?" she snapped, already fumbling for her phone. "This is a protected area. You can't kill animals here." She took pictures of me, the deer, the gun. "This is barbaric. This violates everything Green Valley stands for. These are our trails." I stood, calm but firm. "This isn't community land. It belongs to Frank Williams. And I have his permission." She scoffed, waving her hand like brushing off a gnat. "That's irrelevant. This space has been ours for years. You can't just show up with a deed and a gun and claim it." That's when I realized this wasn't about a deer. It wasn't about hunting. It was about power. 3 days later, an envelope appeared on my door. Thick paper, flowery HOA letterhead, legalese font, a $5,000 fine for cruel hunting activities and disruption of community peace. I wasn't angry, just impressed. No mention of property lines, no legal precedent, just threats, designed to scare. I called the one person I trusted. "Sarah," I said, "they fined me, $5,000, for hunting, on land they don't even own." She sighed. "Evelyn already told people at school, made it sound like you were some armed lunatic creeping around the playground." She's spinning it, feeding fear through newsletters and whispers. I gritted my teeth. "I had permission. I followed the law. They have no authority." She hesitated. "Mason, they've used that land for years. Evelyn acts like it's hers. You embarrassed her, in front of her club." That's when it hit me. This wasn't about the hunt. This was about control. And she was losing it. The next evening was the HOA meeting. I wasn't the type to attend, but this time I brought a briefcase. Inside, Frank's handwritten permit. My hunting license. A property map. A highlighted copy of the HOA bylaws, specifically the part limiting their jurisdiction. The room was packed, folding chairs full, whispers buzzing. Some looked at me like a criminal. Others, like I was holding something radioactive. Front row, Evelyn, crisp in a navy jacket. Beside her, Marcus Bennett, ever the bobblehead. Next to him, Richard Cooper, the treasurer, sweating bullets. Evelyn smiled as I entered. Tight, polished, weaponized. "Ah, Mr. Holloway has decided to join us," she said. "Perhaps you'd like to explain to the community why you believe it's appropriate to engage in violent activities on our protected lands." That wasn't a question. It was a trap. I stood, opened the file, and calmly replied, "I'd be glad to. First, this is not your land. It belongs to Frank Williams, who gave me written permission. Second, I hold a valid state hunting license. And third, your fine has no legal standing. The HOA has no jurisdiction over private property." Silence. For a brief moment, I saw it. The flicker of panic behind her eyes. The empire was starting to crack. I placed the copies on the front table. The room fell quiet. Even Richard Cooper leaned in. Evelyn didn't flinch. "That's where you're wrong, Mason," she said, arms folded. "Those trails have been part of this community for over a decade. We've maintained them, improved them. That land belongs to Green Valley, whether or not its owner lives in Florida." Marcus chimed in, voice forced. "Firearms near residential areas are a danger, especially to children." The room shifted toward them. The narrative was familiar, repeated enough to stick. I glanced down at the HOA flyer I'd brought, and that's when I saw it. Green Valley Nature Trail. Marked benches, bird feeders, paths winding through land I knew, on paper and in law, belonged to Frank Williams. No mention of private ownership, no credit, no consent. They weren't just using Frank's land, they were claiming it. Then I saw it. In the bottom corner, a thumbnail image of the stone arch. Beneath it, in bold letters, "Future site of Evelyn Richardson Nature Park." My pulse quickened. They were planning to build an entire park, named after her, on land they didn't own. No permits, no permission, no communication. Not just arrogance. A scam disguised as scenery. That night, I couldn't sleep. The flyer sat on the kitchen table, mocking me. A map to a kingdom that wasn't hers, never was. At midnight, I picked up the phone. Frank answered after 3 rings. Slow, raspy, but kind. "Mr. Williams, this is Mason Holloway. Sorry to wake you." "No trouble, son. What's going on?" I told him everything. The trails, the bird feeders, the flyers, the fake maps, the park named after Evelyn, the $5,000 fine for hunting. On his land. Long silence. "Huh," he said. "That explains the rising taxes. I always figured hikers or deer, but never thought someone was using the land." "They're not just using it," I said. "They're developing it, planning sponsorship signs, community announcements. They never asked. And now they're punishing me for not playing along." Frank sighed, heavy and tired. "That land's been in my family 50 years, but I haven't been back in over a decade. Arthritis, heat. My grandkids are in Miami. They think pine trees are dangerous." I hesitated, then took a shot. "If you ever consider selling, I'd be interested. I'm not a developer. I just don't like bullies planting flags on things they don't own." Another pause. Then, "What would you do with 80 acres of forest?" I smiled. "Keep it quiet, walk it, respect it, maybe build a trail or two, with your name on it this time." Frank chuckled. "You sound like a man with principles. That land's valuable, clean, zoned, near suburb expansion, but I'd rather sell to someone who cares than some lowball surveyor." "I'd need to run numbers, maybe $800,000, he offered. "Negotiable, if it's going to the right hands." It was nearly everything I had, plus the inheritance I'd sworn not to touch. But this wasn't just a land deal, it was leverage, and a line in the sand. "I'll call my lawyer and get back to you. Take your time, but if they're doing what you say, they've earned whatever storm's coming." We hung up. I sat in the dark, and for the first time the weight lifted. They thought they were playing chess, but they'd left their queen wide open, and I'm done playing defense. The next morning, I called Amanda Lewis, a 40-year-old real estate attorney, sharp, surgical, and known for dismantling HOA overreach with quiet precision. I laid everything on Amanda's desk: Frank's handwritten permit, the HOA fines, flyers, trail maps, and every glossy page claiming the land as their own. Amanda scanned through the documents, one brow arching. "This is unusual," she said. "They're trying to imply adverse possession, but they don't meet the criteria. In Washington, they'd need 10 years of open, hostile, continuous use without permission, and they'd have to pay property taxes." She tapped Frank's name on the tax records, which he always did. Then her eyes landed on the park rendering. "This isn't use," she muttered. "It's encroachment, possibly fraud." I told her I was thinking of buying the land outright. Amanda smiled. "Now that would be an elegant solution. If you're serious, we'll make sure it's airtight." While Amanda drafted the documents and reached out to Frank's accountant, the neighborhood turned cold. My trash wasn't collected. Then came a citation. Improper trash placement. Then another. Illegal parking. For my truck, in my own driveway. A note appeared under my windshield. Green Valley does not welcome animal killers. Neighbors stopped waving. Conversations stopped entirely. I called Sarah. "Evelyn whispered poison," she said. "She's telling people you're unstable. A man with a gun, lurking near children. She knows what she's doing." It was subtle, strategic. A pressure campaign. The message was clear. Comply, or get pushed out. I ignored it. While they spun rumors, I quietly made moves. Frank initially asked for $800,000. With Amanda's help, we closed at $750,000, nearly all my savings and part of my grandparents' inheritance. But it wasn't just land. It was leverage. And peace of mind. Amanda rushed the paperwork. Closing was scheduled for next week. Meanwhile, the HOA doubled down. 3 more violations showed up. Improper trash storage. Illegal parking. A late fee on the hunting fine, now totaling $5,700, Amanda told me. Don't reply. I documented everything. Sarah kept feeding me intel. Evelyn's holding private meetings with select residents. She's planning a fundraiser, $1,000 minimum. And she was seen getting cozy with Daniel Thompson from City Council. Daniel Thompson, a development-friendly official. Another red flag. Then I saw Trevor Adams, Evelyn's husband, walking the property line with a survey rig. I caught him in the woods. He froze, recognized me, and packed up fast. His employer? Green Vision Consulting, the same company listed in the HOA's park proposal. It all came together. This wasn't just trespassing. It was a coordinated land grab, powered by HOA influence, city connections, and community funds. All built on land they didn't own, but I was about to. And with Amanda's help, I wasn't just stopping a park. I was about to dismantle their entire empire. The next day we closed the deal. Amanda flew through the final filings. By that afternoon, I had the deed in hand. Evelyn didn't know yet, but tomorrow, she would. I didn't sleep much that night. Not out of fear, but anticipation. They thought they were winning, but I had just taken their king off the board. 9:00 a.m. The doorbell rang. Evelyn Richardson stood tall on my porch like she was delivering a campaign speech. Navy blazer, white slacks, a manila file tucked under her arm like a verdict. Next to her, Marcus Bennett, HOA VP, leather briefcase in hand, nervous, sweaty, like he'd brought a knife to a gunfight. "Good morning, Mr. Holloway," Evelyn said, voice syrupy with threat. "We assume you've had time to reconsider. This is your final notice. If the violation isn't paid, the HOA will proceed with legal action, including a lien on your property." I didn't flinch, didn't blink, because in my pocket, I held the one thing they never expected, the title. "I am not deterred. Don't blink," not bothering to hide the satisfaction in his voice. "Why don't you two come in? I have something I want you to see." Inside the living room, a brown document lies on the coffee table. I don't sit down. I don't offer coffee. I just stood there, arms crossed, as Evelyn opened it. She didn't gasp. Evelyn didn't do anything rude like that. Gasp. But I saw her pupils narrow. Her finger lingered on the paper for more than a second. Job. Frank Williams' land. Now mine. Signed, sealed, and sealed less than 24 hours ago. Next page, survey map, outlining the entire 80 acres. Include every community trail, every bench, every bird feeder, and right in the middle, right where she planned her vanity project, was this bold text. Private property. Owner. Mason Holloway. "This can't be right," she said, turning the pages again, her voice weaker now. "We have used that land for over a decade. We have maintained it. That gives us community status." "Adverse possession?" I replied, calm and collected. "Not when the taxes are paid by the rightful owner. Not when you never got permission. And not when you try to develop it without ever contacting him." I slide another document forward. "This is a cease and desist order. All HOA activities on my property cease immediately. Trails, structures, fundraising, park signs, everything." Marcus read it, pale and silent. Evelyn's jaw twitched in a forced smile. "Do you think a piece of paper can change everything we have built?" "It doesn't change what you've built," I said. "It determines who it belongs to, and that's not you." She stood up, slowly, and in her eyes, just for a second, I saw it. Not angry, not arrogant. Fear. "This isn't over, Mr. Holloway," she said, her voice tense and slightly shaky. "You will regret this." "No," I replied. "But you might regret building your reputation on someone else's land." She left without saying another word. Marcus mumbled something about considering legal advice, but I barely heard it. I stood at the door and watched them cross the street. Evelyn did not look back. She went straight to Jessica Parker's house. The wheel has begun, but this time, Evelyn no longer had control of the story. Because now, the truth is on paper. And a boundary line. And a name. Mine. Within an hour, my phone rang. "Sarah. Text. Emergency HOA meeting tonight. 7 p.m. Everyone is buzzing. Evelyn is angry. They know he bought the hiking trail. I exhaled slowly and put the phone down. She wasted no time. And me too. That afternoon, I called a local contractor. By 4 p.m., I had placed my order. Private property, and no trespassing signs, enough to cover the entire perimeter of my newly purchased property. The contractor promised to start installation the following morning. I also made a quiet stop at the county recorder's office to make sure every trace of the transfer of ownership was recorded and accessible. If Evelyn wanted to pretend that this was still a matter of opinion, she was going to run into a cold wall legal event. By 6:30, I was dressed and ready for the meeting. No thrill, no excitement, only ready. This is no longer a debate. This is a calculation. At 6:55 p.m., as I was picking up my keys, the doorbell rang again. I stopped, half expecting a second performance from Evelyn, or maybe another anonymous note left on the windshield. Instead, when I opened the door, there was no trouble with the Homeowners Association waiting for me on the porch. "That's Ellie Tran, Valley Chronicle reporter." "Mr. Holloway," she said without hesitation, "do you mind if I ask you a few questions before the meeting starts?" Her timing was perfect, and her presence even better, because tonight, the truth is not just revealed, it would have been witness. I greeted Emily Chen into the house and invited her to sit at the kitchen table. She didn't waste time on pleasantries, just opened her notebook and clicked her pen, eyes alert, energy calm but sharp. I present the facts: easements, illegal uses, park zoning, fines. I stick to clean language, avoiding anything defamatory. I don't sugarcoat. The truth is enough to convict. She took detailed notes, occasionally pausing to look up. Her eyes narrowed in disbelief. "Well then," she said slowly. I nodded. She exhaled and shook her head. "This," she said, "is going to be a very interesting story." Just before I left for the meeting, an elderly man cautiously approached my house. This time it was not a summons from a reporter or the HOA. It was an elderly, cautious man, standing with his hands clasped anxiously before his chest. "Mr. Holloway?" he asked. "My name is Robert Jackson. I used to serve on the HOA board. Are you available? I would like to speak privately." I took him inside. He was pacing back and forth. "I joined the board about 7 years ago," he began. "That's when we found out that the trails ran through private land. Evelyn told us to stop asking questions. She said it would only complicate the community's vision. She said if we didn't touch anything, we would be subject to adverse possession over time." He stopped, glancing toward the window as if afraid someone was watching. "I told her that it was unethical. I resigned. But that's not all. There's more," he added, his voice deeper now. "They've been collecting special assessments for years, trail improvements, nature enhancements, thousands of dollars. But I've looked at the annual financial statements and those numbers don't add up." When he asked for details at a board meeting last year, he was told that the information was secret because it is under negotiation. That's when the conversation took a turn. From land disputes and procedural abuses to the shadow of something much worse: financial fraud. I thank him for his courage. But before he left, he reached out and grabbed my arm, not aggressively, but firmly. "Be careful," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "Evelyn is not without grace, and her husband. He has friends in the city government. Lots of them." When the door closed behind him, I stood still for a long moment. The documents Amanda and I gathered provided me with the legal basis to make my decision. But Robert's revelations? They gave me bullets medicine. The kind that doesn't just end HOA's petty power play. The type that flips poor a mode. And what about that HOA emergency meeting that night? Everything went exactly as I expected. Just this once, I don't just attend. I lit fuse light. The emergency HOA meeting was standing room only. The air inside the Green Valley Community Center felt tense and stuffy, like static before a lightning strike. Neighbors whispered in corners. Some stared at their phones, others looked at me. I could feel the temperature change as I walked in. I was no longer just some new guy with a shotgun. I'm the reason this meeting is happening. At exactly 7 p.m., Evelyn Richardson stepped on stage. Dressed in navy-like armor, she stood tall, composed, and commanding. "Good evening," she began, voice ringing through the hall. "A recent land purchase has disrupted our long-standing use of the Green Valley trails." She didn't say my name, but didn't need to. For over a decade, these trails have brought us peace and connection. And now, one resident has fenced them off, taking away the heart of our community. Gasps, nods, side-eyes toward me. Next to her, Marcus Bennett nodded in solemn rhythm. Then, Trevor Adams unveiled a polished rendering. The Evelyn Richardson Nature Park, with trails, playgrounds, and a stone sign in gold letters. "This was our gift to the future," Trevor declared. "Now it's under threat." When I was finally allowed to speak, the tension was thick. I kept my voice calm. "No, Evelyn. It's not threatened. It's exposed." Silence. "First, this land has always been private. No HOA contact was made with the former owner. Second, tonight's park plans, built on land you never legally owned. Third, the fundraising, done under false pretenses." A pause. Then, chaos. Shouts, questions, accusations. Some turned on me. Others demanded answers about the donations. In the crowd, I saw Nancy Roberts, the HOA secretary, silent, pale, eyes down. Not angry, just afraid. She knew something. Treasurer Richard Cooper nervously whispered with Marcus, flipping through papers like they could rewrite the facts. The meeting ended not with unity, but fracture. People scattered, some furious, others just quiet. Outside, Sarah approached me. "That was tense," she said. "But you got them thinking. Some are asking where the fundraising money went." She leaned in. "Nancy's been off ever since this park thing began. You should talk to her." 3 days later, I posted, "Private property, no trespassing" signs around the land. By day 2, half were missing, but I was ready. Hidden cameras caught Marcus Bennett and other HOA members sneaking in at night, yanking up signs, stomping them, then vanishing into the trees. I'll use the footage when the time's right. But now, it's about the money. With attorney Amanda Lewis, I'm filing a public records request for all HOA financials tied to the so-called Evelyn Richardson Nature Park. While waiting for these documents, I reached out to Nancy Roberts, under the pretense of discussing the vandalized signs. She initially declined, clearly afraid, but a few days later, she agreed to meet. Quiet cafe, 2 towns away, hood pulled low. "I can't let anyone see me with you," she whispered. "Evelyn has eyes everywhere." And then, like a dam breaking, she spoke. "Nancy manages the HOA's financial records. She had full access to the Nature Park Development Fund, which had collected over $75,000 in 3 years through voluntary contributions. The money was pooled," she explained, "then suddenly drained, paid to a consulting firm called Green Vision Consulting." I asked, "Who owns it?" She didn't flinch. "Trevor Adams, Evelyn's husband, and Patricia Bennett, Marcus's sister." No bidding, no board votes, just vague invoices, quietly approved by Evelyn. Then Nancy slid a silver USB across the table. "I backed up everything," she whispered. "Contracts, redacted meeting notes, internal emails. I've been meaning to speak up, but Evelyn threatened my job. Her law firm represents the district. She's close with the principal." I took the USB like a key, because that's what it was. The next morning, I met with Detective Alex Morgan, a financial crimes investigator with the sheriff's office. After a quick scan of the drive, he looked up. "This is more than an HOA dispute. This is fraud. We're opening a formal investigation." But Evelyn didn't back down. She retaliated. That weekend, I woke to shouting, not birds. A crowd of residents stood outside my home with handmade signs. "Save the trails. Community over greed." People I'd seen at the store. Neighbors who once waved now glared. Local social media lit up with rumors. Who is this newcomer? Why block our trails? Is it true he carries a gun in the woods? But the worst blow didn't land on me. Sarah called, her voice shaken. The principal called me in, said my association with you raised community concern. He hinted my contract might not be renewed. Evelyn doesn't fight fair. She fights with power. Then came a shift. Emily Chen published an article in the Valley Chronicle, measured, factual, but clear. She questioned the park's finances, the lack of transparency, the culture of fear. One day later, I received a certified letter from the HOA's attorney. A defamation threat. $100,000 in damages. They accused me of ruining the reputation of the Green Valley HOA and its officials. The letter clearly states that financial allegations are deliberately fabricated to distract public opinion from my violations. Before I could react, the phone rang. Detective Morgan. We have the preliminary bank statements, he said, getting straight to the point. In the past 3 years, Green Vision Consulting received total $68,000 from the HOA Special Fund. Only one customer only is HOA, and the value of the service they charge is usually only worth about 1/3 that number. We are expanding the investigation, but I think you should know, this is no longer an internal affair. It has the signs of misuse of public funds. At the next HOA meeting, Evelyn walked up as if she had never been shaken. We will not allow ourselves to be intimidated by baseless accusations, she declared. Mr. Holloway is attempting to distract from personal transgressions by slandering people who have contributed to the community. She paused, searching for a look of approval, but the room, strangely quiet. I caught suspicious glances exchanged between the residents. The mask began to crack. Evelyn felt it, and when power slipped from her grasp, the beast would bite. She looked at me, her eyes cold as knives. You made a terrible mistake, Mason. I promise, when this is over, you will regret ever setting foot in Green Valley. I will personally make sure of that. A threat, uttered before dozens of witnesses. And to me, that is the final piece. I don't need to be on defense anymore. It's time counterattack. The next morning I called Emily Chen. When she came home, I didn't give her a story. I gave her proof. Financial records detailing transfers to Green Vision Consulting. The company registration is in the names Trevor Adams and Patricia Bennett. Fundraising documents misrepresent land ownership. Testimony from Frank Williams and Robert Jackson. And the recording of Evelyn's threat in the middle of the conference room last night. Emily looked through each file, her eyes gradually widening. And you said the police are investigating? Yes, Morgan is interviewing the other members, today. I'll have a preview of the article online tonight. Perfect. Just as Evelyn called a special meeting to discuss legal action against me, I prepared the final counterattack. While Emily Chen was busy finishing her article, I walked in. Counterattack phase. With assistance from Amanda Lewis, I compiled an official letter to all Green Valley residents. Not a sentimental letter, which is one indictment with evidence. I attached a photo from the security camera, clearly showing Marcus Bennett and several HOA members are vandalizing no trespassing signs on land I legally own. Here is a detailed list. Amount donated to Park Development Fund in the past 3 years. Compare with suspicious payment transferred in Green Vision Consulting Company owned by Trevor Adams, Evelyn's husband, and Patricia Bennett, Marcus's sister. The letter ends with a blunt, uncompromising proposal. I will open one legal community trail, fully maintained, insured, if the entire current HOA Board of Directors resigns and a new transparent financial control system is established. That afternoon, the neighborhood buzzed like a shaken hive. Word spread fast. Detective Morgan was seen at the homes of Richard Cooper and Nancy Roberts. No more speculation. The investigation had officially entered its next phase. Formal testimony. Phones lit up with urgent calls from Evelyn Richardson, summoning loyalists to an emergency meeting to protect the honor of the community. But the word honor didn't carry the same weight anymore. John Peterson, a retired banker who once donated $5,000 to the park fund, began going door to door. Not shouting, not accusing, just asking, "Do you know where your money went?" Even Cynthia Miller, one of Evelyn's fiercest supporters, publicly called for a full audit of HOA finances. That night, the community center overflowed. People spilled into the parking lot, murmuring with anticipation. Evelyn entered flanked by Trevor Adams and Marcus Bennett. Gone were the smug grins, replaced by tight jaws and eyes darting for escape routes. They wore confidence like a cracked mask. She stepped to the podium, voice steady but strained. But before she could finish her greeting, the crowd broke loose. "Did you transfer HOA funds to your husband's company? Why didn't you disclose the land doesn't belong to us? How long have you been lying to us?" Each question landed like a hammer blow. Evelyn tried to hold the line. "These accusations are fabrications by Mason Holloway," she said, jaw clenched. Green Vision Consulting was approved by the board. Trevor's role had no bearing on the quality of work. And then Richard Cooper stood, the HOA treasurer, normally silent, now shaking, but not backing down. "You never disclosed the conflict of interest," he said. "I signed off on those expenses because you promised transparency." Applause broke. Cheers. Boos. The room fractured into fury. Then, the doors opened. In stepped District Attorney William Hayes and Detective Morgan standing quietly in the back. No need for sirens. Their presence said everything. Evelyn spotted them, her face drained of color. She slammed the podium. "This is ridiculous," she shouted. "Everything I did was for this community. If I bent a few rules, it was to build a park. Would you rather let an outsider control our nature?" For a second, silence. Then, Nancy Roberts stood up. Her voice trembled, but her spine didn't. "That's not true, Evelyn, and you know it," she continued. "You hid the land's real ownership. You pressured the board to approve money for Trevor's company. No bids, no oversight. You threatened my job when I asked questions. This was never about community. It was about your name, on a stone plaque." The room exploded. "Resign! We want answers! Evelyn, step down!" Marcus tried to interject. No one listened. Trevor stared at the floor, silent, ashamed. And Evelyn? She stood in the middle of the empire she'd built. An empire of paper, pressure, and pride, now collapsing in real time. Then, District Attorney Hayes stepped forward. He didn't bang a gavel, he didn't shout. Just one sentence, quiet, but impossible to ignore. "Mrs. Richardson," he said, voice low. "In light of the investigation, I recommend the association appoint an interim leader until the matter is resolved." The room froze. Dozens of eyes turned to Evelyn. Another person might have bowed out quietly. But Evelyn? Would she go down with grace? Or clutch the podium until the bitter end? "Miss don't know what surrender is. I will or not. Resign," she declared, her voice as shrill as the last string snapping. "These accusations are defamatory, and anyone who continues to repeat them will be named in our lawsuit. This community needs strong leadership now more than ever. And I will not give up just because of one disgruntled resident who wants to cause division." No one applauded. No one laughed. Only the silence of a room that no longer belonged to her. Evelyn gathered her papers and strode from the podium like a defeated general. Trevor and Marcus, pale and bowed, hurried after her. As the crowd began to disperse, people approached me one by one. Some ask, some apologize. Some just quietly put his hand on my shoulder, as if saying thank you for standing up when no one else dared. Sarah, standing in the corner of the room, thumbs up, a relieved smile. Her phone was still recording. Emily Chen, who had now crept into the crowd, was furiously taking notes and interviewing witnesses. She needed no narration. The events of the night spoke for themselves. After the meeting, District Attorney Hayes and Detective Morgan called me aside. "Tomorrow morning," Hayes said, "we need you to come to the sheriff's office to give an official statement." Then he paused for a beat. "This incident has beyond a HOA dispute. We are looking into the behavior that is indicative of money transfer fraud, embezzlement, and abuse of office. And yes," he looked me straight in the eye, "every serious." That evening, as I put the phone down on the table, it rang. Unknown number. Message. Valley Self-Storage Unit 23 is being cleared out tonight. Documents are being moved. You need to know this. I called Morgan right away. Thank you, he said, sounding unsurprised. We'll take care of it. The next morning I received confirmation. Police stopped Trevor Adams and Patricia Bennett at the storage facility. Caught them red-handed unloading boxes of financial records from Unit 23. Evidence is being moved, maybe destroyed. But this time, they came too late. The entire document was sealed, just in time for all the lies began to be revealed most clearly. Evelyn threatened to ruin my life. But now, her own life is crumbling, piece by piece, under the weight of the decisions she made. She gave it herself. However, I know she won't let go. 2 days later, the final desperate move came. Through social media and email, Evelyn launched what she calls a community trail conservation walk. An innocent-sounding title. But the content is a call to action. Large-scale invasion of my land, scheduled for Saturday morning. Join our neighbors to reclaim our beloved trails. Bring kids, grandparents, cameras. Let's show Mason Holloway that he can't steal what belongs to the community. It is no different than image-polishing media campaign, Make Me the Villain. A selfish man builds a fence to separate his family from nature. But I knew she would, and I was prepared. First of all, I report to Detective Morgan. At the sheriff's office, then, together with attorney Amanda Lewis, I take legal action to convert much of the land into a private wildlife preserve, fully licensed with tax benefits. I put up a new fence, solid and standard, install the clear signage. Private reserve. Trespassing will result in criminal prosecution. I also built one official portal, next to an information kiosk, detailing the property name, conservation conditions, and access regulations. No one can say, "Don't know." Saturday morning. I stood at the gate, camera in hand. Amanda stood beside me, as calm as if we were waiting for a press conference. And then, Evelyn arrived, leading a group of about 30 people, holding a banner. Trails for all. This land belongs to us. She wears brand new climbing gear, carrying a trekking pole that had clearly never been used. No trace left outside the showroom. She stopped at the fence, hesitating for a second, then turned to the cameras pointed at him and began. "This is ridiculous," she declared. "We have been using these trails for decades. This fence is illegal, and we are here to take back our rights." Evelyn stepped forward, intending to touch the gate to usher in the civil rights restoration. But she never touched it. 3 patrol cars roll up and park right on the side of the road. The car door opened. The police came out, and leading the way, as I predicted, Detective Alex Morgan. You don't need to shout, just say 3 sentences. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is registered private land. The rightful owner has reported previous trespassing and vandalism. Anyone who crosses this line is subject to arrest." He looked straight at Evelyn. His voice did not change. "Mrs. Richardson, the organization of this mass invasion may be considered as additional evidence in the present case." Evelyn's group froze. No more momentum. Her face was red as if she had just been slapped in the middle of the square. "Nonsense," she snapped. "Say something, Marcus." Marcus stepped back, not looking at her, not a word. One of the group removed the sign, then quietly returned to the car. Then the second person. The third. Just 3 patrol cars, a few words, and the truth. Evelyn's protest campaign disintegrate in silence. "You're abandoning me?" she screamed, her voice cracking like broken glass. "After all I've done for this place?" No one responded. There was only the sound of the car door closing. Evelyn's final words. "This isn't over yet," now rang hollow. When the truth is revealed, everything she ever did suddenly took on a completely different meaning. The crowd dispersed, leaving only a few stubborn men who quietly left under the firm but gentle gaze of the police officers. A few days later, the case was officially opened. With evidence from Nancy Roberts, testimony of Richard Cooper, and documents from sealed archives, the district attorney's office charged Evelyn, her husband Trevor Adams, and Patricia Bennett charges: fraud, embezzlement, and misuse of HOA funds, Total $68,000 has been used to finance vacations and home renovations. HOA board disbanded by an emergency vote. Sarah Johnson was elected interim president, immediately ordered a comprehensive audit, and issued new rules on financial transparency. Evelyn, Trevor, and Patricia received suspended sentences, was forced to repay the full amount, and banned from participating in any HOA or nonprofit organization for 10 years. Power can be abused, but the law cannot. After the storm, justice is not only served in the courtroom, but in the very hearts of communities. The HOA Association still exists, but has completely changed its nature. The HOA still exists, but now works for people, not against them. No more petty courtroom meetings, no more ridiculous fines. Now, a new executive team, led by Sarah Johnson, truly listen and serve residents. As for me, after all the arguments, threats, and investigations, I was finally officially recognized as the rightful owner of the land once occupied by the HOA. I don't put up barriers. Instead, I build a new trail, designed and licensed properly, guaranteed full safety, maintenance, and insurance standards. No more ambiguity, no more appropriation. There remains only one common space, where people can walk, breathe, and know that every step they take is on the foundation of true justice. After the storm, justice is not only served in the courtroom, but in the very hearts of communities. It is named after the person who has silently preserved this land for half a century. I named it the Frank Williams Memorial Trail, reminding visitors to respect both nature and ownership. A simple wooden plaque at the entrance tells the story of Frank, a farmer, a father, a landowner who never asked for anything, just respect. That road is now iconic, not just a path in the woods, but the path between past and present, between the individual and the community, between ownership and moral responsibility. By choosing to name Frank on the trail, I affirm that true legacy lies not in power, but in how we use it to stand up for what is right. Ultimately, this is not just a story about a man being punished for hunting. It is the story of rights forgotten, justice perverted, and how a community can self-healing when the truth is revealed. I didn't win because I was richer, louder, or better at fighting. I win because I stand up for what is right, even if I'm the only one doing it. And if there's anything I learned from this war, it's this. True power lies not in controlling others, but in standing up, at the right time, for what no one else dares to say. Green Valley today is not perfect, but it is more honest, more fair, and therefore, more livable. How about you? Have you ever been bound by unreasonable rules? Have you ever come across an Evelyn? Share your story in the comments section. And if you find this story worthy of being told, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because there is so much more waiting to be revealed with you. See you next time.